Shout out to BWB, man. BWB. Shout out to BWB, man. You know what I'm saying? Bandwagon Buffs, man. Shout out to Bandwagon Buffs. Thank y'all for coming. BWB, baby. Shout out to TOP Sports Club, baby.
God is doing a new thing. And if you don't tap into him to learn what he's doing anew, you're going to be stuck waiting for him to part your Red Sea. I hope that doesn't go over your head. By the time you embrace this new idea of what Coach Prime is doing, he's going to have 2 or 3 national championships under his belt. It's going to be too late for you. Buff Nation, what up? BWB, my bandwagon Buffs. What it is, what it does, and what it's gonna be. It's your man's Harry Billion. Welcome to the Liberian Perspective. My channel, my content, and my delivery style are unique. It's an acquired taste. It's not fast food like your McDonald's, your Burger Kings, where if you start from one end of America to the other end of America, it all look, taste, and smells the same. My style is like a unique restaurant with a gourmet chef, where the food is special. The type of food where you have to take your time to eat it. You sit down, you relax, and you eat the food. Every bite has to be savored and enjoyed, not swallowed and munch on and run. It's not for everybody. But when you lock in, it becomes your favorite restaurant. When you lock in with me, we become family. We become a community. We become BWB, Bandwagon Buffs. Make sure, smash that subscribe button. Give me the thumbs up. And the BWB gear is available. Just look down on this video on your screen. You'll see it. That's all the business I got. You know what time it is. Let's work. I'm your chef, Harry B. I'm about to cook, so let's go. You guys know me as the decoder on this channel. I tell sports stories. I decode media messages. I wrap them into concepts, metaphors, to make it easier for us to understand it and for us to consume it. I told you guys that when the big media speak, I'm going to bring it to you and I'm going to decode it. Whenever they speak, I'm going to speak. Today, I want to talk about Dan Patrick and what he said about Coach Prime. It's the same thing that everybody is saying, but this one comes from a 40-year veteran. We have to talk to Mr. Patrick. He's a 40-year veteran. I'm 40-some years old. His career is practically my age. So he's an OG and he deserves some respect. We're going to give him that. But we're also going to do something anew. I need a few analogies because this one here is an old head. Old heads, old thinking is a little bit harder to penetrate, if you may. So it deserves a few analogies to land this plane or to penetrate. We're going to get to what Dan Patrick said, but let me give you my analogy. And then we're going to land this plane. Let's go. God is doing a new thing. Pastor Chris Mendez has a devotional plan in the Bible app, and it's called Something New. Me and my wife went over it. We finished it already. In that plan, Pastor Mendez, he lays out how God is doing something new. The essence of that was we have to tap into God. We have to stay connected to our source of life in order for us to survive. I was on Instagram, and I saw a video, and a guy was telling us about the whales. The way that the whale actually dies is that it drowns. I didn't know that. The whale lives in the water, but he must come up out of the water to get breath. And the guy was explaining that the whale is not of the water, he just lives in the water. So if the whale does not come up to tap into its source of life, it's going to drown and it's going to die. If we are not tapped into our source of life, we can drown and we can die. If we don't tap into God to understand the new things that he is doing, then we're going to continue to depend on the old things that he did for us generations ago or years ago. God bless you in a certain way. You're still waiting for him and looking for him to bless you in that same way. God parted the Red Sea a very long time ago. You're still praying that God should part the Red Sea. God's like, no. I'm not going to part the sea this time. I want you to walk on the sea. God is doing something new every single day. Tap it. Nobody was ready. But in 2019, something shook the world. And by 2020 and 2021, we were shut in. Nobody knew what was happening. Our normal way of life came to a halt. You could not go to other countries and you could not leave your country for a certain amount of time. We thought that it may take several weeks like everything else, but we were not prepared for several years. The COVID pandemic changed our way of thinking. God does not intentionally put obstacles in our way or make bad things happen in order to teach us or make a point. God usually uses the things that are already in our way, the things that are on this earth, the things that we cause ourselves. He uses those things to teach us. He's been telling us for years that he's doing a new thing. Tap in. He's been telling us to tap in, to tap in. He's doing a new thing. I need you to tap into me because I'm moving in a new way. I'm doing things differently. And I need you to tap in so that you can understand where your next step is going to be, how you're going to progress. Oh, you don't want to listen? Okay. This pandemic that just happened, it forced us to stop and listen and pay attention to nature. We were all forced to do things differently. A lot of traditions, a lot of the old heads, people who were not ready, it caused them to have to go back to school. It caused a lot of people who had written school off to go back to school and learn something new. The pandemic forced a lot of people to think differently. People's way of life was shifted. And you now had to do something new in order for you to continue to live. Because if you were a handyman and you depended on going to somebody's house for your way of life, you no longer had that. Wiped out a lot of people's way of life. And they had to think differently, start new. Millennials also teach us about change, doing things differently. The old way is cool, but there are other ways to accomplish this same thing. Millennials taught us that, and they're still teaching us. Sometimes old ways and old habits are hard to break. You see this here thing? And this camera that I'm using is called a DSLR. Old heads in my field had these big gigantic cameras. Let me put one on your screen. These cameras we used, you had to have a special talent and a special knowledge of how to use these cameras in order for you to work in our field. If you did not know or have the education on how to use these things, when you saw somebody else using them, you were awed. You were like, wow, I can't believe he knows how to use that. So the old heads had that until these came about. The phone, the DSLRs. Once again, it wiped out a generation that were depending on these big old cameras. I went to Boulder, to Folsom Field, to the spring game. You see right here where it says black and gold behind me? I caught one of those shirts during the game. I went there with my camera that I'm recording on right now. They would not allow that camera to enter the stadium. So I went in with this. So the intro that you see on this video, all of the B-roll footage that you see, I filmed with this camera. Things are changing. It doesn't take the big old cameras anymore to get beautiful, clear, sharp images. So now everybody know how to use these. The millennials, they started using these early on when things like social media, TikTok, and all these things came out. Millennials picked this up and they started telling their own stories. And a lot of them became millionaires. While the old people sat back and saw them do it. And they laughed at them. And they told them, what you are doing is silly. Tradition, go get a real job. Tradition is cool because tradition is basically something that worked. We kept doing it. You went to college, you got a good job, you worked it for 20 to 30 years, you got a pension, you retired, and that job was able to take care of you in your retirement. How well is that working out for you right now? The millennials came and they said, nah, not doing that. That's not going to work for me. I need a new way. Say what you want about the millennials. They're lazy, they're X, Y, and Z. But these kids came in, they found a new way. They embraced a new way, the new thing that God was doing. They tapped into it early, and a lot of them revealed to us that there were other ways, just like the pandemic opened our eyes to new ways of doing things. Now, that's the setup. I want you to lock that in, lock all of that in. And now let's talk about Mr. Patrick. Daniel Patrick Pugh, born 1957, known professionally as Dan Patrick. He's an American sportscaster, radio personality, and he's also an actor. He hosts the Dan Patrick Show. He broadcasts on radio, Premier Radio Networks, and he also streams on Peacock. He previously hosted NBC's Football Night in America, and he serves as a senior writer for Sports Illustrated. He worked at ESPN for 18 years. He anchored the weeknight and Sunday 11 p.m. edition for SportsCenter. Dan Patrick is an OG. Dan Patrick is an OG in the broadcast world. Deserves a lot of respect. Let's go. Dan Patrick calls coverage of Deion Sanders at Colorado wishful reporting. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've made these mistakes before. You get caught up in the hype. Even the most seasoned and trusted reporters can get caught up in hype sometimes. Dan Patrick has seen it before. He even admits that it has happened to him. Boulder, Colorado is the center of the hype universe. On his Fox Sports radio show on Thursday, Patrick called the coverage of Colorado Buffaloes and their new coach Deion Sanders wishful reporting. Sanders certainly knows how to get media attention. Before he even played a game, videos of him addressing his team flooded social media. TLP Sports Club, BWBs, was one of them. 42,000 people attended the team's spring game. I think it was a little bit more than that. I thought it was 47,000. Keep it moving. Colorado football is being talked about on local radio again. It's all great, but Dan Patrick said the people that talk about sports for a living should proceed with caution. And remember that this was a 2-10 team last year. I thought it was 1-11. Maybe our information is incorrect. Maybe he knows something. I don't know. Keep it moving. We're caught up with, oh my gosh, Deion Sanders. How long before he competes for a national title? He said. We've run with this, and instead of having somebody that has logic go, okay, how good can Colorado be? They were terrible last year. They're not going to be good this year. Las Vegas isn't caught up in the hype. Sports books have set the over-under for Colorado's win total at just 3. The team is 20.5 points underdog in its opening game, which is against TCU, who played in the College Football Playoff National Championship game last year. Patrick did single out one media colleague that is approaching the Buffs with a clear head. ESPN's Reese Davis appeared on SportsCenter, and Patrick thought he answered questions about the team the way anyone paying attention to college football should. Reese is not a hot take guy. He's very measured. He was asked about Colorado, what are they going to do? And he's like, look, if they're 2-4 after 6 games, that would be great. They might be 1-5. They could be 0-6. All of a sudden, the anchors are crestfallen. Dan Patrick said that sometimes reporters and pundits get carried away with what the more fun narrative is. Last football season, Odell Beckham Jr. called him a football outsider for criticizing reporters for asking where the injured receiver was going to play rather than if he were healthy enough to play. He added that when it comes to Sanders, no one wants to be the one to say that the Buffaloes may win just 2 games again this year. Was it 2-10 or 1-11? I've been doing this for 40 years. I've made these mistakes before. You get caught up in the hype, he said. If you give something that's real, then it feels like you don't like them or you're a hater. And that's not always the case. I agree with that, of course. I want to caution people who do this for a living because we get excited. What if Deion starts 0-5? And he might, but that doesn't mean he won't be successful. Just be realistic about the expectations. This is an OG. This is how you're supposed to approach this thing. I agree with Dan Patrick. He is 1000% correct, but the old way. We have to unpack this a little bit more. Let's start with Odell Beckham. Put this one up, Harry B. I keep going back to Odell Beckham Jr. last year. I kept saying, no one is asking the correct question. When can you play? It was people speculating where he would go. I said, hold on. Can somebody ask OBJ if he thinks he can play? That's when OBJ sent a tweet out calling me a football outsider, which was fine. I was just asking a rational question, but that's not any fun. No one wants to be a buzzkill saying Deion is probably going to win 2 games. That's no fun. When you're in the media, you have a job to do. To ask tough questions or questions that's going to get to some real tangible answers, that's going to get to some meaty answers. Celebrities, if they have a media trainer, they are trained to give sound bites. They're trained to skirt the questions, talk around the questions, and give generalized answers. That's understandable. So you as a journalist, your job is to go in there and try to get them to answer questions to give you a realistic answer, something that you can hold on to, something that's going to be different, newsworthy, not the rehearsed answers that he or she has been given to all of the media. Mr. Patrick is an OG. He understands that. When it comes to OBJ, I don't know that that's what's happening here. People are asking, where is he going to go play next? OBJ, where are you going to go play next? What Mr. Patrick wanted to know is whether OBJ was healthy enough to play. What I want to know is who would that question have served? Yes, it'll be nice to know whether he can play again, but that's up to him and his doctors and the team that is going to eventually get him. What you have to understand is that the bag is different now. The new bag is not the same as the old bag. Things are different now. We have social media. We have bloggers. We have vloggers. We have YouTubers. Things are different now. The way that we used to consume media, the way that we used to consume things in the past is no longer the same. The bag is different now. There's new media now. It's not all the same media. If OBJ starts to get into the idea of I cannot play, telling you how hurt he is, that messes up his bag. People would take what he says, spin it, and 1,000 stories and headlines would then be written from that, which can then send the wrong message to the teams that are trying to get him. Maybe back in the day, maybe people are upfront, maybe media is responsible and you can give information and it will not hurt you the way that it would hurt you today. Now you have to guard the information that you put out very closely because the spin is different now. Truth doesn't matter today. That's what Mr. Patrick has to understand. Truth doesn't matter today. We can go into politics and tell you why truth doesn't matter today. The only thing that matters today are what's out there on social media. So Mr. Patrick, 40 years ago, OBJ might be able to tell you, yeah, man, I'm still feeling a little bit sore and me and my doctors are working on it and all of these things. And you may report that responsibly. And because there weren't no social media, there weren't Twitter and everybody with a vlog or a blog channel, a YouTube channel, it won't go out there and the headlines would be different. The thumbnails will all be different. People would be using blue tears. Some would be using him in a wheelchair. You know what I'm saying? Like some would have him in crutches. Some thumbnails will have him with a cardboard box saying OBJ is done, can no longer play. You have to understand what's going on in the game today. The bag is different. Name, image, and likeness is different. The money is different. It ain't the same no more. So I'm not just giving information away like that. That kind of information, you can't just put it out there because everybody's not going to treat it the same. That's one thing that Mr. Patrick got to think about. So when OBJ says you are a football outsider, if you're in the media and you are a reporter and you do not care about the person's bag, then also understand and don't mind when a person responds to you negatively. You got to be very careful how you handle sensitive medical information when it comes to today's players, because the information can hurt your bag. How much money they were going to offer you, the negotiations that you were going to make when you get to the table. If you were asking for $1 million, they're now going to take those words that you just said, oh, my legs are still tender. They're going to say, listen, we're going to have to hold back $500,000. You got to hold that sensitive information close to the vest because it can hinder your potential bag. I understand where OBJ was coming from. I understand that Mr. Patrick was trying to do his job as a journalist. That's one thing. So now let's get to Coach Prime. I am not a delusional person. I understand what Mr. Patrick is saying. If they're 2-4 after 6 games, that would be great. There might be 1-5. There could be 5-1. I respect your opinion as an OG. You've been in this game longer than I have. I respect Las Vegas. They've been betting for a long time. They've done the over and the under for a while for sports. And usually the numbers will definitely tell you something. The numbers usually kind of tell you which way it's going to land. If John Morant continues to hold guns up on IG, we all understand where that's going to go. If a certain child continues to go in a certain direction, the numbers can tell you, based on previous actions, numbers will tell you how this is going to end. I'm not delusional. I get that. I understand it and I agree with it. But the thing that I want to interject here is, why are these experienced people not counting on anything else other than the 2-10 or the 1-11? Why not unpack it for me to understand? Unpack the 2-10 or the 1-11 for me. I read the entire article. I turn my phone upside down to make sure I'm not missing anything. And here again, there is no breakdown as to how it happens. When you make predictions that are based on certain numbers, predictions that are based in numbers are a consistent behavior that's happening. And you can say, if you continue to go this route, then this result is inevitable. But it's based in consistent behavior. But this thing is not consistent though. The team is not consistent. They're gone. How many times must I say this? They're gone now. Then wouldn't the numbers change? If this was Deion's team and he went 2-10 last year, he went 1-11 last year, he's only replacing a few folks, the argument then makes the most sense. That's how we do sports betting. Then we say, yes, you're correct. But you are attaching the 2-10, the 1-11 to Coach Prime. You're literally saying that he went 2-10 last year. Coach Prime didn't go 2-10 last year. He was undefeated last year. He went to the Celebration Bowl last year. He didn't go 2-10, Mr. Patrick. Deion Sanders did not go 2-10. Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, did not go 2-10 or 1-11. He went undefeated at Jackson State. The game is played with players in different positions. What you would do, you would take the quarterbacks and compare them. You would take the wide receivers and compare them, their previous outputs, their previous contributions. You would compare the players that are in that locker room, and then you can arrive at a number. And you're saying that in your evaluation, that 2 games or 3 games is where you have arrived. But how did you get there? I am waiting for one of these OGs, for one of the people who are in this sport, the talking heads, like Mr. Patrick said, to break this stuff down and make it make sense to me. I've said this several times. I've said this before. I'm starting to sound like a clinking cymbal, like a broken drum. If you break it down, help me to make it make sense. I will understand and I will ride with you. But there's a reason why I cannot ride with Mr. Dan Patrick. Use caution. I'm all for using caution. I'm cool with that. Use caution. Yes, there's hype here. There is hype here. It doesn't mean within the hype, you cannot be rational. I understand rationality. I wanted to be rational, but I want the writers, I want the sportscasters, I want them to go a little further than just saying what they think is going to happen. What you're doing is basing his wins and losses on a recruiting class that's no longer there. You're basing this on Mel Tucker's kids. To date, only one person that's joining Mel Tucker at Michigan State. Mel Tucker recruited those kids. He's only acquired one of those kids out of the transfer portal. He handpicked those kids, gave them scholarships. Almost all of them are in the transfer portal, and he only took one. If you break it down for me, if you're able to go quarterback, wide receiver, running back, break down the trenches with the other teams, you can go team by team and let us know, oh, this is my reason, then I will understand. But the conversation always stops at, they stunk last year. If you're going to take Coach Prime and you're going to say this is why he's going to lose, then tell him this is why he's going to win, because he was successful at Jackson State. You're not applying the same thing here. TCU win to the national championship. Max Duggan is no longer there. Running back no longer there. Wide receiver no longer there. All gone. So they're still going to win though. Arizona State Sun Devils. They got a new coach, Dillingham. He's rebuilding, bringing in his own guys. He's still going to win. Cal's rebuilding. The Cardinals rebuilding. I would say a handful of teams within the Pac-12 are rebuilding with new quarterbacks, new guys. Apply the same energy to them, but you're not doing it. Coach Prime is leapfrogging the system, the old system. Do not discount what he did at Jackson State, because you said the same thing. It should have taken years to win, but it didn't. He came in, he recruited the way he did. Those were some new guys that had to gel, they had to get to know each other. Right after that hybrid season, 2 undefeated seasons. You keep wanting to bet against what he's doing. Coach Prime is a new thing. People don't understand new things. It's hard to understand new things. The transfer portal is new. The transfer portal is put there to now even the fields a little bit. Before, you won't be able to get 4 and 5 stars. Now you can go to the transfer portal and get a player like an Alton McCaskill. Now you can go into the portal and get 3 and 4 stars. Most successful Power 5 teams have 3 and 4 stars on them. Maybe 1 or 2 5 stars. That's your big teams, your Georgias, your Alabamas. Check them. A lot of your delusional people think that they're all 5 stars at Georgia. A lot of you delusional fans think that, oh, they got all 5 stars with Nick Saban. That is not true. If Coach Prime is able to prowl Butler from Georgia and Alabama, he's doing something. Y'all can still write and say what he did at Jackson State was not supposed to happen because he wasn't supposed to recruit people like a Travis Hunter, bringing 4 and 5 stars at an HBCU. He wasn't supposed to do that. The same way that he's not supposed to be able to recruit 4 and 5 stars from this portal because of the mass exodus, but he's still doing it. He's still taking people from Georgia, from the Alabama, from the Ohio State, from the big programs. He's still doing it. Something new is happening. You don't understand it. In this new age of the transfer portal, you no longer have to sit and wait 2, 3, or 4 or 5 years to build a championship caliber team. Coach Prime is showing you in real time how it's done. He now has the money and the resources to do it, the facilities and everything he needs to train these kids on that level. And he's showing you. No, Mr. Patrick is not going to adhere to this type of reporting. Mr. Patrick is an old head, and he's talking about the traditional ways of how football was done. And most of those traditions are still true. But we understand that the transfer portal is a game changer. We understand that the things that Coach Prime is doing would have taken years to do. If your argument is that he coaches his way into acquiring high-level 3 stars and add a few 5 stars, then he can start to win. So if he's able to do those things now, what makes you think he cannot win now? If he's able to acquire the players that will come in year number 3 to 5, if he's able to leapfrog that and bring them in now, then what says you? Why can I not win now? So then what variable are we counting? What is the variable that takes away from that? Is it going to be chemistry? What else is it going to be? They don't know each other. They don't know the playbook. They don't have enough time together. Those would be realistic variables to look at. But the players, the bodies that he needs, the mentality, the coaching, 5 coaches on there. Strategy, if none of those things are the variables that we're talking about because he has them right now, then what is going to stop him from winning? There's a new thing that's happening. Consider Coach Prime the millennial coach. The coach that's saying, I'm not doing it the old way. I'm taking full advantage of this new way, and I'm going to win now. Because when the young kids came in with their phones, they became millionaires. When the young kids embraced social media and started putting out content, they became millionaires. When Coach Prime embraced this new era of recruiting, he went undefeated twice. Coach Prime is not just sitting back and just believing. He's putting in the work. The recruiting is happening. The coaches, the knowledge, and the base is there. All of that is there. So we can't look at those factors and we just can't just say this stunk last year. That's the only factor we keep bringing back. This stunk last year. This stunk last year. This stunk last year. That is the only thing we're going off because I'm willing to have a mature conversation about why they're going to lose. You cannot tell me that everybody else is replacing their guys. Coach Prime is replacing his guys, but just the mere fact that they're just going to win, that's where I have a disconnect. I'm rational enough. I'm willing to accept real information, real data. Give me real data so that we can make sense of this. Coach Prime is using a different method. Most people are not used to the method. When something new is happening, when you continue to depend on old concepts, on old ways, you're always going to give the same dried answers, or you're always going to be talking about the same dry thing. Something new is happening. You can either embrace it or you can get pandemicked. Something new is afoot. Old habits are hard to break. And a lot of us are now getting tired of this argument. A lot of us have had it with the nonsense because you're using old measuring sticks to measure this new thing that you don't understand. Once again, a lot of you didn't understand social media. So you didn't take advantage of it. You didn't get ahead of it. A lot of businesses did not understand streaming, so they did not embrace streaming. By the time that they embraced streaming, Netflix was already there, eating everybody's lunch. By the time you embrace this new idea of what Coach Prime is doing, he's going to have 2 or 3 national championships under his belt. It's going to be too late for you. Old guys, by the time you start using your cell phone to recruit, Coach Prime will be on to the next thing. God is doing a new thing. God is no respecter of person. Tap into what's going on so that you are not trying to wait for the old Red Sea to part. A new thing is happening. You have to understand and tap into that new thing early so that you're not waiting and hoping and wishing on old things and old ideas and old concepts. You cannot wait for 4 and 5 stars of yesterday when you can get them right now. 4 and 5 stars don't usually take that long to understand what's at hand. Dogs don't need a long time to understand that I have to be a dog. A dog is going to be a dog and it's going to play like a dog. If a dog plays the way that he's supposed to play, it doesn't take that long. Chemistry doesn't take that long for dogs. The reason why you need a lot of chemistry is when you don't have enough dogs in the dog pound. I need to make this clear for a lot of people out there. Chemistry is vital to the success of any team. Chemistry is vital. But usually, it doesn't take that long for people of the same mindset to connect. The goal is to win. Once we lock in on the goal and you and I are on the same mindset, the chemistry automatically develops. It doesn't take that long for chemistry to work when two people understand what the goal is. I don't usually have to like you when we both understand the purpose, the goal of why we're here. Two divorced parents can co-parent naturally and develop a winning child and don't necessarily have to love each other to do it because they understand the goal at hand. We gotta lock this in. We gotta make this clear. A team that needs years and years to mesh, to get that chemistry going, doesn't have enough dogs on that team. They have enough good players on that team that don't understand the mentality of winning yet. It's going to take them a little bit of time to get there, to understand their value, to understand who they are, and then to start locking in with the other dogs. And now it's time. They're not taking plays off. A dog doesn't take plays off. It's the third quarter. We're winning. Let me relax a little bit. A dog would never think those thoughts. Dogs don't take plays off. Winning teams have people on there that are fighting all the time. Yes, chemistry is important, but it doesn't mean that you don't have teams where people have disagreements. You will usually see dogs barking at each other sometimes, fighting for the same food sometimes. The ball's going up in the air. Who's going to get it? Both dogs want that ball, and they're going to fight sometimes. They're going to get in each other's face sometimes, and they're going to fight. So what I'm trying to let you know is that a new thing is happening. Coach Prime is getting some dogs that once they get on that field and they understand that the number one goal is to win and win now, it ain't going to take that long for them to mesh. It ain't going to take them years for them to lock in and understand and start playing at the level that they need to play to win. Something new is happening. And Mr. Patrick, as much respect as I have for you, you have to understand something. There's a new wave. There's a new thing happening. These are different kids. The way things used to be is no longer the same way. Something new is happening. Coach Prime is ahead of that thing. Coach Prime is ahead of the new wave train. And he's trying to show you guys what's happening in real time. And if some of y'all don't understand what's happening. This new way of coaching and recruiting, you're not going to understand it until he proves it to you. But you're going to continue to doubt because that's human nature. That's the part where we can't help you with. Human nature is to always doubt first for things that we don't understand. We're not parting seas no more. We're not even walking on water no more. We're walking on the dry land on top of the water. But you don't even see that. A new thing is happening. You can either embrace the new and win now, or you can sit back and be shocked once again. But we keep breaking it down. We keep telling you what's happening. And when it happens, we're not going to be surprised. A lot of you will be surprised. BWBs, we're not going to be surprised because what we expect is nothing less than winning. And I'll leave you with this. If you call somebody a clown who's believing that they're going to do something, then you don't understand. Because you don't understand it doesn't mean that it's not possible. Because you don't believe, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It's not up to you to believe. Just get out of the way. Stay out of the way. Believe what you're going to believe. It's okay. It's okay to believe what you're going to believe. But once somebody proves something to you and you still don't believe, what does that make you? How many of you guys said that the Warriors, without Kevin Durant, would not win another championship? And then they won another one. And you still don't believe. That's what I'm saying. It's not up to you to believe because we here are locked into the system, the new wave. We're going with the new wave. We are the early birds. We're not late bloomers. We are the ones that signed up early. We test the beta. We are beta testers because we understand it. When the Twitters are coming out, when the Facebooks are coming out, we jump on these things early because we understand it. It's the new wave. Because you don't understand it, you can continue to lean on tradition. Tradition is what worked yesterday. It doesn't mean that tradition is going to work today. God is doing a new thing. Continue to doubt, but doubt over there. Stay out of my comments with your nonsense. We're not delusional. We're not saying we can't have a losing season. We're not saying none of that stuff. We're just saying, look at what we're doing. That's all we're saying. Coach Prime put in the work. Maybe it's time for you to take many seats somewhere out there. Take many seats away from the rest of us. We don't care that you don't believe. Nobody cares that you don't believe. I'm going to repeat this for you. Nobody cares about what you think. Believe what you're going to believe, but do it over there. Don't come over here with your nonsense. I don't want to hear what you think. We give facts over here. We lay out the facts and say, well, based on these facts, it looks like our chains are pretty nice. Based on the Cromani McLeans, it looks like our chains is pretty nice. So that's what we're saying. The data's there, but you're not listening to the data. You're not paying attention to the data. We're not just sitting around getting happy with a bunch of no stars. We're not just sitting here celebrating nothing when everybody else is looking at the data and they're saying, well, yeah, this data looks pretty nice. They look like paper tigers. They look pretty nice on paper. If we're celebrating the information based on the data, then how does that make us crazy? How does that make us clowns? We're clowns because we're saying that, oh no, our 4 stars can play just like other 4 stars from other programs. How does that make you look? A 4-star from here, a 4-star over there, they both get on the field. Your argument is that no, my 4-star is better, but we're saying our 4-star is better. So then who wins the argument? So now we're clowns because we're saying our 4-star is better than your 4-star, but we're clowns. That makes you look like a clown. We're not allowed to say our 4-star is better than your 4-star. We're saying we got the same 3, 4, and 5 stars on our team, but we're not allowed to use them. Only you can use your 3, 4, and 5 stars. That makes sense to you because we celebrate Colorado and we're a bunch of clowns. Because you see us with cell phones and we're recording and all of those things, that makes us look like clowns. That is the base of the arguments of all of the detractors. Because they put up clown emojis, we're just supposed to be like, oh, ha, ha, ha. People are supposed to laugh. Because it's Colorado and they see a lot of things going on in the media. We're using social media. You don't understand the new thing, so you make fun of it. You're about to be left behind. We're not worried about you detractors. We're laughing at you detractors. You can say, oh, they're so sensitive. It seems like the more sensitive people are y'all. Y'all more sensitive than we are. Because we're actually taking our data and we're looking at our data and saying, well, yeah, it looks pretty nice. Anyone with a brain wants to take a true look at the data. I mean, a true look at the data. You would say, well, yeah, they're looking pretty nice. But because you're not willing to do that, you're looking silly. So if anybody looks silly, it's y'all. Y'all the ones that's delusional. We're looking at the Orton Mascascos. We're looking at the Shador Sanders. Why would you count out a quarterback that has such a high accuracy in Shador Sanders? Why would you count out a wide receiver such as Jimmy Horn with such hands and such speed? What data are your haters looking at? What data are y'all looking at? Can you get out of your own hateration way for 1 second to look at the data fairly and put it together? That a 4-star at Georgia is the same 4-star over here? If Georgia went after Aaron Butler and they got Aaron Butler, you would say, oh my gosh, we got a high-level recruit. But Coach Prime is able to prowl Aaron Butler away from Georgia. So now Aaron Butler's star is less because Coach Prime got him. That is the argument that the detractors like to make. Is that Aaron Butler doesn't matter because we got him. We're doing the real work that y'all not willing to do. That's why we can celebrate as hard as we celebrate. That's why we can continue to follow the hype. That's why we can enjoy the hype. And you cannot bring yourself to enjoy the success and the hype that is going on. You're so miserable. That's why you're so miserable. You can't even enjoy college football because you're miserable. You are so miserable, you cannot enjoy your own success. You are a miserable human being. You don't want to look at no data. Forget about stats. I'm just going to come on here for the rest of the time and just talk to my people. I ain't bringing no more stats. I'm not proving nothing else. I'm not giving y'all no more stats. Because what does the stats prove? We already know what we got. BWBs already know what we're getting. Whenever we get a new person, I'm going to do a video and I'm going to say, hey, constituents, hey, BWB, Buff Nation, here's the information. Here's the data. Here's the highlights. This is who we got. It's a 4-star from California. It's a 4-star from Texas. We got a 5-star from Georgia. Once I give that information, my base, the BWB, Buff Nation, The Buffalo's crowd, we said, oh, that's a pretty good person. That's a pretty good player. Let's put him on the team. Let's go. We understand that. We understand the value of that player. So we take that data, we sit down, we analyze it for a second. We say, you know what? That's pretty good. We can celebrate now. And then we go out and we celebrate hard. We are some of the hardest celebrating fans that there is in college football. And there's a lot of you miserable college football fans. You can't even enjoy the game anymore because of Coach Prime. Your life is so miserable that you can't even enjoy the game that you used to love because you hate Coach Prime so much. You can't even enjoy the process. You're supposed to just be like, wow, this guy's doing this? Wow, he's able to recruit that much? Wait a minute. The transfer portal, he's taking all of those kids out the transfer portal and building a new team from a 1-11 team last year, but he's able to bring in 4 and 5 stars? Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. And that's the college football story that you're supposed to be enjoying. But because you hear other people talking and distracting, you can't even bring yourself to enjoy that process. And you're getting mad and putting clown emojis in YouTube comment boxes because you're miserable. Because you are a miserable human being that you can't even enjoy a process that you once enjoyed. Don't be a sheep. Don't be a follower. Don't listen to the detractors. If you are a person that enjoys college football on a neutral level, you don't care who it is, and you just enjoy college football, you can still enjoy college football and be like, wow, this is amazing what this person is doing. Just stay neutral. Don't listen to the noise because you know what he's doing is darn near impossible. Enjoy the impossibility of what he's doing. You can enjoy the game. You don't have to join the chorus of people who are detracting. Oh, they're going to lose. Oh, he got cell phones. Oh, they're over there doing social media. Oh, he's dancing. He's doing all of these things. You're caught up in the wrong idea. And something new is happening and you're missing it because you're old. Your traditions are old. Coach Prime don't care about your traditions. These millennials don't care about your old traditions. Work at a job for 20 years, retire, get a pension. How's that working out for you? The old way doesn't work. God is doing a new thing. Tap into your source of life. Then you can understand God gave you an idea years ago, and he's been trying to tell you the intricacies of that idea, how to execute the ideas, the seed that was planted in your spirit long time ago about that business that you haven't started. But you don't want to tap into the new thing that God is doing, so you don't even know what's the first step to take for that idea that you had years ago. You haven't tapped into the source of the idea. The idea is there. He planted that idea inside of your spirit for a reason. So in order for that idea to manifest, you have to tap back into him to survive. You have to tap back into the source of the idea so that you can find the executable points to start moving in that idea for it to work. But you don't want to tap in. You're old. You're still listening to traditional stuff, but God is moving in a new way. New things are happening. If you tap in, then you will understand and enjoy it. Some of y'all don't even know why you hate Coach Prime. Can you even tell why you are a detractor? Can you articulate why you hate the guy? Can any of you so-called football head tell me why you are a detractor and why they're going to lose? You're not college football fans. You're just a miserable human being who has lost so much. You are a loser in your own personal life. Miserable people run in packs. So it's easy to be miserable and join the pack of losers who think the way that you do, so you cannot believe that anybody else is going to win. Oh, by the way, I'm not saying Mr. Dan Patrick is a loser. I'm off of Dan Patrick. He didn't bring no data, so I'm off of that. You didn't bring anything. All Dan Patrick said was, based on my old way of thinking, they're going to lose. How can you be mad at that? Based on his old way of thinking, yeah. If we were in the old ways, old way. Like the whale, if you don't come up for air and you think because I'm the biggest dog in this here water and don't come up for air, you're going to drown. I respect Mr. Dan Patrick and the longevity of his career and what he has been able to accomplish in his American journalistic sportscaster career. I respect it highly. What I would not do is to accept the old way that he has of thinking, because it's a new day. And we about to win, and we're going to win big. And you know who I am. I'm going to keep screaming it from now all the way to the mountaintop when we're celebrating our national title championship. You heard that from my mouth. I'm Harry B. And that right there was the Liberian Perspective TLP Sports Club. Brah!